It's Not Another Buffalo Podcast, hosted by three of the most underqualified sports personalities this side of the canal. With John.
There's no way in hell that I can leave that in, right?
You don't think so?
Well, to quote Rage Against the Machine, what better place than here? And, what better time than now?
And Brando.
We have this trust built on, whatever it is, like Bibles and gold bricks and whatever Brandon Bean's drinking over there.
All right, welcome back to Not Another Buffalo Podcast. I'm John. I'm here with my buddy Brando here on a Tuesday evening. We missed you last week. I'm sorry. I was out in California at the time, but I am back, and so we are back on the bandwagon here. We figured you guys wouldn't mind us missing 1 week in the off season here. Before we get into things, I want to let you guys know that this episode is brought to you by Small City Real Estate. If you're looking to buy, sell, or manage property in Western New York, our guy Zach Korzelius, you can give him a call at 585-409-1088. 585-409-1088. Almost forgot the number there. It's been 2 weeks. Also, you can email Zach at Zachary@smallcityrealestate.com. He's just the best realtor in Western New York and an awesome guy to know. So check out Zachary at smallcityrealestate.com and Small City Realty. And also, this episode is brought to you by the Jkorz Agency for all your insurance needs. So, Brando, it's been 2 weeks. A lot has happened. The all-time goal scoring record has been broken by Ovi.
Yes.
It's Masters Week right now. The draft is coming up.
Yes, it is.
If we were just another Bills podcast, we'd probably be doing our third mock draft at this point. But we figure you guys get enough of that content elsewhere.
There's a lot of people that are better at that than we are.
Yes.
Did you do it? Yeah. I did think of you, though. There are people, and you were the first to do this. At least in my knowledge, I could be totally wrong on that, like 100% wrong, because maybe I just don't consume it. I don't like the mock draft stuff, but maybe Maddie Glab and they were talking about it on One Bills
Chris Brown
Live. Chris Brown, yeah. Somebody was going through all the mocks and this player was taken 80% in mock drafts. This player was taken 30% in mock drafts. You know how you have your little algorithm?
Yeah, I did that 2 years ago, and that's how we correctly predicted the Kyrie Elam pick.
Correctly. We did not. You did that. Not me.
You guys were a moral support of the spreadsheet.
But I was like, I never really heard of anybody doing that, of finding all the data available on mock drafts and making information out of it. And then they were talking about it on the radio. I'm like, oh,
all right.
We did that first.
I was going to say,
cool.
We did that like 3 years ago. So that was cool. I don't think we did it last year because I realized it takes about 8 hours to fill in the spreadsheet.
Yeah. There's some probably AI program now that just scans the internet for all of the mock drafts and pulls the players that way.
You got to get a little scraper tool or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Still
a couple years from now, that'll be a very easy little prompt thing that you can just send out and send an AI bot to do tasks for you. But we had that and it correctly predicted Kyrie Elam. So we also ran it back the next year and it did not correctly pick the
50%
first
hit
player.
rate. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're 1 for 2 on there. That's pretty good odds,
Yes, it is.
If you're betting long shots there. So, but anyway, where do you want to start today? We also have March Madness finished up last night with Florida coming back.
I would like to say something quick on this.
Yeah.
2 things. First of all, a guy I work with who regularly, we talk shop about the show, maybe a couple times a week during lunch. He's like, I want to hear you talk about this. I want to hear you do this. He nailed the bracket almost perfectly the whole time. I think he had missed a few picks, but he nailed the final 4. He picked Duke losing and he picked Florida winning. And the total was 127 yesterday and he picked 128. So he got, I think he was in the top 300,000 on ESPN, but
that's pretty
he won
cool.
Our school bracket that we do.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I was going to say, I've had one bracket in my entire lifetime that was at that level. It was back when UNC won. I don't know. It must be 5-7 years ago or something like that. But I was in the drawing for the Hawaii trip. I did not win the Hawaii trip, but I was in the drawing. I was in that top 0.1% of brackets that get entered. Yeah. But that's pretty cool when that happens. I saw there was a women's tournament bracket that only had 1 pick wrong.
Really?
In the entire thing. And I think that has to be mathematically a record because you've seen the odds of having a correct bracket.
How do you only get 1 wrong though? Because if you miss that 1, then it's
gets
just
corrected.
for them to lose in the next round then. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So as somebody, predicted to win in the round of 64 that you also predicted to lose in the round of 32, it can self-correct from there on out.
Interesting.
But I thought that was crazy. The odds of that are astronomical. If you had bet on all of those games, like $1 and parlayed them all and then like rolled it forward or something like that, I mean, you're talking like Bill Gates amount of money with that many picks. It's crazy.
The rolling part is where it gets crazy. And we talk a little about gambling here because I just had this debate the other day. Rolling through the first round of 64 into the next round is if you have won, that's a large amount of money, right? You're not wagering $1 anymore, and then you're wagering. It's quite the gamble, right?
I was gonna say, none of us would. We say this, the rolling over picks, but it's like, if you had bet on the Atlanta Braves to lose their games and you started with $100, you'd have like whatever $50,000 or something like that right now.
Yeah.
But once you get to 25K, I mean, even like $1,000,
50.
No one in our current, like no one who doesn't have money to burn, which is most people right now, are rolling $1,000 onto the next bet. Like, hell yeah, let's just, it's like I'm cashing out my wins after like $500. I think that's like the maybe before
if
that.
I'm doubled up a bet, I cash out. If I bet $2 and the cash out's $4, I'm cashing out. Like
right. So.
But this other part about this is I was betting Ovechkin anytime goal scorer, maybe for the last couple weeks for every game that he was doing, and it hit. Like there was one game it didn't, and I didn't bet it, but my buddies were like, you should roll your winnings. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm happy taking it's like minus 110. He was plus money a couple times. They had boosts for him and stuff, but I'm like, I'm happy hitting the double. So I took $5 and turned it into 65. So I'm absolutely happy with that. Like that was cool. And then it was like, put the sprinkle a couple more where it's like parlayed Ovechkin to win, Caps to win or something like that, where you take the team. So boost it up a little bit, but
usually the mistake people make is if they have a bunch of wins in a row, they're like, oh, well, I should have been rolling this forward. So they start rolling it forward and then, everything reverts to the mean. And they're like, okay, well, now you've stacked 3 losses in a row to equal out the 3 wins that you just had because the probability usually comes back around.
It always does. But always does.
I was lucky. The only OV bet I had, I turned on the game because I knew that he was close and I wanted to watch it. And they had him at live at like plus 120 or something like that to score, and he hadn't scored yet. And as soon as the penalty gets called, I was like, send bet. So that was good. That was fun to watch that cash immediately after that. But that was quite a moment. I didn't think that they were going to have like a full ceremony. Like they stopped the game, roll out the carpet. Even when it was like before they did the ceremony, I was like, this is going on a long time. Like I wonder how this must be to be a player. But
it's interesting.
I guess, that's all planned.
Because the goals record, Ovi could have got it the game before at home, empty netter
he had
out on the ice, and he stayed on the bench. They asked him if he wanted it, and he said no. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. He wants to do it on a goalie. I like that. Yeah. But this is one of those records, the Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, they don't get broken very often. I mean, Gordy breaks it
30 years before Wayne Gretzky, right?
Maybe more. Like we're talking 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s. Like between I don't know the date that Gordy broke this record, but we're talking 80 years ago for 2 guys that have been in this position to get the goal record. And the goaltending now is so much better than even when Gretzky played. Like that transition from 80s style goaltending to Dominik Hasek in the 90s really ushered a huge change when you're averaging 7-8 goals a game total to 4 or 5 goals a game. It's a huge drop in overall scoring. Yeah. So even Ovechkin 5 years ago, he did an interview after he won the cup, and Elliot Friedman is like, you think you're going to break this record? We think you're going to have a look at it. He's like, absolutely not. I'm going to have to average 50 goals a year for the next 6 years. And he did it, which is crazy. 39 years old to be able to do this, break this record. It's an all-time moment for him, and he gets the Stanley Cup, and it's great. And now he's closing in on the all-time hit record, because it's like, is he a sniper? Is he a power forward? Who knows? But he needs to average like 2 hits a game for the next year and a half. So through next season, right? And he'll break that too, which is just outstanding that his body has held up this long. So it's cool. It's cool.
I was surprised his body held up after the amount of alcohol that was put into it via the cup after Russian. That whole thing.
It's water to him.
So
he broke his leg this year. We didn't even talk about that.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And also, real quick, The last time the Sabres made the playoffs, Ovechkin needed 550 plus goals to break this record. So Ovi has scored well over 550 goals since the Sabres last made the playoffs.
That's a lot of goals.
And Devin Levi is one of the few goalies that has not been scored on by Ovechkin. I think he has 28 saves on Ovechkin shots. He posted a thing today. Budweiser sent out a thing.
Yes.
To all the goalies that have not been scored on by Ovechkin, and Devin Levi did a little selfie. It's like, thanks for the 4 dumpins.
That's
something
funny.
Like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But anyway, we should finish up this bracket here. Speaking of Sabres woes, we have the championship here, the 1 seed Wide Right tragedy versus the 15 seed Briere and Drury leaving. Now, I feel like this is a pretty easy choice here. I mean, it's kind of a, it's a 1 seed versus a 15 seed. There's a reason why Briere and Drury leaving was a 15 seed. But I don't know if you guys have missed the last few episodes, but Brandon has really talked me into what a tragedy this was, because this was the single event that set the Sabres on a tragedy of 12 years without soon to be 13 years without a playoff berth. Yeah. I mean, I know they're not mathematically eliminated, but they might be by the time this episode comes out. So
if Montreal wins tonight, Sabres are out. So the teams ahead of them have to lose the rest of their games.
Right, like all of them, and the Sabres have to win out at this point, right? So I think Money Puck took them out of the pie like weeks ago. Even if it's 0.00001%, I think they just rounded down to 0.
It's ridiculous.
So, but you're telling me there's a chance.
I think this is an easy one. I agree with you, John. But I'm not gonna stop arguing for this jury.
Okay, I was gonna say, give me if you were if you're OJ's lawyer, give me the case for Briere and Drury leaving being worse than Wide Right. I want to hear,
ladies and gentlemen,
Jackie Childs
of the jury,
which is the Seinfeld character.
He's a great character. There's still more. I'm reading more and more that I forget about this, because again, we're 12 years old when this happens. So right in the primitive moments of fanhood of sports. So
the formative,
primitive.
I think it's formative.
I said I did this last time too. I've mixed this up before.
Yeah, it might have been a primitive fanhood.
Yeah. Well. So okay. Couple things. Darcy Regier, strict policy of no negotiating contracts during the season, right? Owner or the GM, that's his thing. We don't do it during the season. Turns out that he was negotiating with Drury during the season, but the negotiations were so bad that Drury was the one that withdrew his interest from negotiating during the season. He said, we'll talk about it after the season. Nobody spoke to the 2 players about their interest. They never asked. They never found out. Both players wanted to come back. Nobody asked them if they wanted to come back. The Sabres were on a self-imposed budget. Tom Golisano, who did save the franchise, just didn't want to lose money. And as a small market Sabres team, the Sabres did not generate enough revenue. In the NHL, it's a lot different than the other teams. It's a box office league. There's 8 teams that are profitable. Right. And then that's why they came up.
The rest benefit from revenue sharing, right?
And it's like the Leafs, the Canadians, the original 6, Detroit, Boston, these guys. It's why the lockout happened in 2004, was to create this revenue sharing and everything, so on and so forth. So
otherwise we wouldn't have had the Coyotes or now the Utah Hockey Club. Maybe not the Sabres.
Yeah, great chance that could have happened. But the Sabres had cap space to spend, but they were on a self-imposed budget not to spend up to this dollar line. And it was actual dollars spent. The cap number wasn't a huge thing, but actual money spent this year. The Bills are one of the top teams in the league that spend actual dollars during the season.
Right.
So at this time, they were not wanting to spend the actual dollars. So another little wrinkle in this, Thomas Vanek, another young core player as a restricted free agent, not unrestricted, right? Restricted free agent is needing a new contract. And this was one of the very first things that happened in the league. Their offer sheets are very frowned upon, right? And if you offer sheet somebody, you have to give up draft capital based on the contract that they try to sign. The Edmonton Oilers offer sheeted Thomas Vanek $7 million a year. And at that time, if Thomas Vanek were to have signed that and left, Vanek did sign it, mind you. Vanek signed that offer sheet to leave. But when it's a restricted free agent, the franchise that drafted you gets a chance to match it, right? So it's like 7 years of service, you lose the restricted title. So teams have roster control. At the time, the $7 million salary that Edmonton signed Thomas Vanek to equaled out to 4 future first-round picks from the Edmonton Oilers. 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. Maybe it goes differently, but the Oilers were pretty bad during that time frame. So, maybe they get Thomas Vanek and they're not as bad, but that's 4 first-round picks extra to bolster Drury and Briere if you would have kept Drury and Briere. So as this is happening, the Sabres offered the same amount of money as the Rangers eventually. The Sabres offered 5 by 25 or 5 years, 25 million. The Rangers came in and offered more. Then I guess the Sabres had a chance to match, but because of the bad faith negotiation, Drury never looked back after that. And Briere was never going to sign without Drury. So they had to sign together. So the Sabres lose both, and then they have to match the offer sheet from Edmonton. So they don't lose their third best player in Thomas Vanek. So they match the offer sheet. They keep Vanek. They only make the playoffs, I think, 2 more times. It was the first time in NHL history that the team that had won the President's Trophy didn't make the playoffs the following year. They had such a steep drop off in talent. And it's just one of these things that when you look at it from these rosters and everything like that, they're general managers. Thomas Vanek is a scout for Mike Greer in San Jose. He's like the Minnesota-based scout. And we don't have him. He doesn't work for us, of course. But it was tough. Drury left. The Rangers were his favorite team growing up. Briere wanted to stay, but the Sabres kind of screwed him. But again, what did it do to this team? It tanked him down. It didn't. They never had this star power again after that. They were the 2 of the better players in the league. Pominville, Vanek, Ennis, Tallinder, Brian Campbell leaves the next year, 2 superstar defensemen, and you had Ryan Miller left, and this team was gutted. 1 series away from a Stanley Cup, a couple injuries away from a Stanley Cup. They lose to Carolina in Game 6 or Game 7. I think it was Game 7. Then the rest is history. So that event and the Lucic running Ryan Miller, those 2 combined, because the Sabres are like on the path to rebuilding, with contention, and it's we got to get tougher. We got to get tougher. Let's sign John Scott, and let's go get Steve Ott, and let's trade Derek Roy, and let's do that. We're gonna fire our GM now. Now we're gonna tank. Here we are. It's 2025. I've all of my students. We teach up to 8th grade. They have no idea. They've never seen a team that has been good here. That's a long time. It's 14 years, 13 years, and it's just putrid. So
yeah.
But the Bills lost the Super Bowl because Scott Norwood missed a kick. So
right, but you're not that many degrees away from Briere and Drury staying and potentially winning a Stanley Cup that next year, or having 2 or 3 more shots at it. Because they were going to be under contract for 5 more years. Yeah.
And the part about that is they hit the window perfectly. The NHL had come out of lockout. This is another wrinkle. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about this. The NHL comes out of the lockout and they're calling penalties for the first time, right? It's the clutch and grab late 90s, 2-1 hockey games. Dominic Hasek making 60 saves. Sabres come out of the lockout. They're scoring 4, 5, 6 goals a game. They are speedy. They are fast. They're capitalizing on power plays. Coming out of the lockout, there's the most penalty calls ever. The 2-line pass used to be an infraction. They got rid of that rule. The NHL did. So the Sabres are stretching the ice. They're flying back and forth. These young guns. And again, the little caveat here is that lockout season, all these young players got to play together. Ryan Miller, Jason Pominville, Thomas Vanek, Tim Connolly, all in the AHL together. So they were seasoned. So they were rookies and young players and 2nd and 3rd year players, but they all got that year together during the lockout. And they come out of it just on fire. But those 2 years, the NHL needed to adjust, right? They had to kind of adjust to these new rules and this new system. And I'm a little biased here because my Red Wings win the Cup in 2008 the next year. So they were also a wagon and they were studly. They were just built up and down. They lost in the finals the next year. They lost the same year the Sabres lost in the conference final, and then they ended up going back. But anyways, the NHL caught up. The Wings were good. All these other teams were good, but the Sabres had a window right there. Maybe they could have stretched it into 2010, 2011. And they weren't, Drury and Briere were not young bucks, they at the time, 29, 30, 31-ish. And, Briere plays 90 playoff games with Philly, goes to the final and has 100 points in 90 games in the playoffs. That's where, Danny Briere in the playoffs is a stud. And Chris Drury, they didn't win a cup, but they didn't have as much success as the Flyers did. The Flyers at least went to a final. So maybe it would have been better for everybody involved, Drury and Briere, if they stayed for their career wise. But, it's just sad. It's sad. That's all. I'm sad.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, and it's tough too because, Wide Right, we've only seen the documentaries, obviously not being alive at that point, but I think you only need to watch 4 Falls to Buffalo once to feel that pain. And it's like, I wasn't even alive for this. Like I shouldn't care that much, but you do. It makes you care so much. So anyway, my vote's going to be for wide right, but not for Jury and Briere leaving, not putting up a good enough fight. You know? So
the jury had to deliberate a couple days on this verdict.
Yes. A couple weeks. We had to marinate this one.
So. My dad said a good quote. I called him when I was walking out of the stadium for the 13 seconds game. And I've said this before, where I was like, he's like, welcome. You know what it feels like now to watch the team blow a game like this. And it's like, I'm glad we didn't do that in the Super Bowl, though. I'm glad I didn't go to the Super Bowl and see that. And, he's like, it sucked. Yeah, he didn't go, but it's part of it, I guess. So,
yeah. All right. So on to happier things, or, heartbreak and devastation, depending on what golfers you like. But the Masters,
we're talking about blowing it. I mean,
I was going to say, let's talk about the Masters here. Go ahead and let's get into your Rory spiel here. And then I got a little fun activity for us to do. I think it'll be. I
was looking at players that are going to win or could win in contention. And we talked about Rory blowing it last year at the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. And the dude was automatic. He hadn't missed a putt within 3 feet on 500 tries, and he missed a few in that one round. So, and then you talk about another one was Phil Mickelson in 2006, the U.S. Open. Now, the crazy part about this, he was the guy that had never won a major, but then he won the Masters and the U.S. Open in 2004. Then he wins the PGA Championship in 2005, the Masters again in 2006. So he's at the U.S. Open, and he's about to win his 3rd consecutive major on the 18th hole. And he just needs a par to do it. And the dude whips out his driver like a normal man like you and I would on a course and just shanks it and blows it and loses. That was a good choke. But we're talking about Rory McIlroy here. I don't want to say Western New York native, but his wife is a Western New York native. Oak Hill member. Right. Rory McIlroy, 35-year-old now, aging like red wine, just changing his swing here and there, wins the Players Championship. And we're looking back at his choke jobs. We talked about the U.S. Open, but there's one time in the Masters where a young Rory McIlroy really blew up. 2011 Masters, entered the final round with a 4-stroke lead after 56 holes, right? Leader on Sunday. The dude was leading with 9 holes to play. Woo! With 9 holes to play. He shot a 37 on the front 9. To start the back 9, he fell apart. He went triple bogey on 10, 4-putted on the 12th hole, and finished with the worst final score round in Masters history with an 80. And then he goes on to win the U.S. Open the next major. He won the next major. So that's Rory McIlroy in a nutshell, I think, right? I mean, has all the talent to win and blew it and has blown it in a couple of different majors. But he's still,
I don't want to do the thing where we assign football teams to golfers, because I feel like there's an answer there and I don't want to say it. So we're not gonna jinx stuff. So maybe the tides will turn. Maybe this will be Rory's time, and it'll be a signal for hey, maybe this year is the Bills' year. You're choker until you're not, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
until you're clutch. True. So I know it's been 10 years for Rory here, but I do want to play a more fun game, which is equate the PGA golfer to the NFL player. And I have some written down here, but I want to kind of rapid fire this, kind of like, I don't even know if this is like a Freudian thing or like classic therapy thing, but like word association.
Oh, where
they fire a word at you and you just say what comes into your head. Yeah. Instant. So I'm going to say a golfer, and you just fire back at me the first NFL player that comes to mind. You don't even have to think about it too much.
Okay.
And you get bonus points if it's the same one that I have written down here. I want to see how alike we think on this one. So, all right, let's start off with a nice, easy, recent one. Scotty Scheffler.
Andrew Luck.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like they kind of look alike. I don't know.
They do. I had Patrick Mahomes written down for that one.
Oh, no, I'm not thinking about Mahomes ever.
Okay. All right. That's fair. All right. Tiger Woods.
Tom Brady.
There you go. Okay. That's what I had written down. Phil Mickelson.
Aaron Rodgers.
That's a good one. I had Peyton.
Okay.
Peyton for this
Phil
one.
Mickelson is not liked by a lot of people. He is beloved by a lot of people. but he's also got a nice relationship with certain people. Quick funny story about
I don't like Phil Mickelson either. Like again, that was just like the first association I thought of. But no, you're right. I guess also Aaron Rodgers being that divisive character. That's a good one. I was almost thinking of it in tandem with Tom Brady being Tiger Woods, because like the Tom Brady to Peyton is kind of like the Tiger to Phil in the same era. Yes. Kind of the 1A, 1B of the eras.
Tiger's 1A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. And then there's Phil. No offense.
Phil won a lot of majors.
Yeah, Tiger won everything. A lot.
Yeah. Anyways, with what you said. Sorry.
So Phil Mickelson, Mr. Jokester, I guess he's got kind of a running joke with some players on tour, because they do the Masters Championship dinner on Tuesday before the Masters. And he'll always
that'll be tonight.
That's tonight. Yeah. So Scotty Scheffler's dish, I think it's steak, and then they have fish as a choice. Nice. But Phil Mickelson will text players that have not won the Masters and say, "Hey, you got dinner plans tonight?" or something like that. Just be like, "Hey, what are you doing? You want to get dinner?" "I'll wait. I got Champions dinner tonight." So.
Jeez. All right. Well, Phil's not our favorite person off the golf course, but that's all right.
I don't dislike Phil. I think winning that major at age 49 or 40, 50.
He did it at 50.
That's cool. I'm all here for that.
I think that was PGA Championship at 50.
Yeah,
I want to say so.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's still swinging it with the best of them. So, all right. Next up, this will be an interesting one. All right, fast fire. John Daly,
Ben Roethlisberger.
That's a good one. I like that. I had John Elway or Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, Fitzpatrick's a good one. I like that better. Yeah.
Yeah. Just that, beard, crazy. But all right. Bryson.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I have Josh written down for this one too.
That's fair.
Just kind of like a physical freak. You know? Josh isn't like a physics major or anything like that, but
yeah. I don't know why I said Ben. Josh fits that perfectly too.
But Ben's kind of the same thing. He's, he's the bulky guy, but right.
Josh is a better one. Josh and Bryce have a good brain. Not that Ben doesn't, but as a person, we'll see. Where's Pat when you need him? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Pat's usually got something controversial to say that I always have to wonder if I can leave it in or not. All right, Rory
McIlroy. For players that I think of in the NFL, Joe Flacco.
All right, that's not a bad one. You know what I had written down. I mean, I wrote down Josh Allen first because I think I wrote down Josh for too many of these because he's still chasing the big one, right?
Yeah.
But I think a better one is Russell Wilson.
That's good.
Because
That's very
of
good.
the early 2010s success.
Yeah.
And not much since.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
Joe Flacco fits that too. Wins the Super Bowl, gets them back to the playoffs. That counts as a win on the players to take the Browns to the playoffs, right? That's one of the players' championship.
I agree. This one might be interesting. Ricky Fowler,
NFL equivalent, Cooper Kupp.
Oh, that's a decent one. I had another wide receiver written down. I had OBJ.
Okay.
For this. Yeah. Kind of like that, star-studded superstar early on in his career and then just kind of faded, but had some moments. Some moments. Like
I like Ricky Fowler.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. We've had some flashes of Ricky in the last couple of years. Kind of like a little mini Detroit. Comeback. Yes.
The Rock and Mortgage Classic. Yeah.
Yes, that was it. I don't know. I don't remember if that's an elevated event or not, or whatever is considered an elevated event. So. But
yeah.
All right. Colin Morikawa.
Interesting. Colin Morikawa.
I got a good one for this one.
He's ever won a major? Has he ever won a major?
Yes. I think he won 2 when he was. No. Did he? Does he have 2?
Let's see. Colin Morikawa, NFL equivalent. I don't know, man.
He has 2. That's right.
Okay.
2020 PGA Championship and the 2021 Open Championship.
Oh, that's cool. What did you say?
I put Justin Herbert down for this one. Like he's he's physically gifted. You can see the talent. You can see that, but we're still kind of waiting for him to be dominant.
Yeah.
Now, Justin Herbert hasn't really won anything yet. Yep. Not even like playoff games even. Mm-hmm. So it's not perfect, but.
Well, it's funny when we're trying to think of like Super Bowl winners, just how few quarterbacks have won it in the last 25 years. Again,
Tiger has what you said, 15 majors.
Yeah.
Nobody's winning 15 Super Bowls. So it's almost like you have to take like AFC Championship wins as majors as
or getting the Browns to the playoffs.
Right. That seems, yeah, that's putting the team on your back. All right, I got one more for you.
Okay.
Shane Lowry.
Shane Lowry is an NFL player. I like Shane Lowry. Saw him.
I do too. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't want to undersell him by saying a stupid player here. This is bad, but my first thought was Byron Leftwich just because of like the belly, right? He's like a little bit bigger.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one. I had Jason Kels written down. Like it's just a vibe equivalency.
Yeah.
Like you can't draw any more parallels than that, but it's just a vibe. So that's it. That's the list I got. But
Byron Leftwich was in my head. I saw a TikTok of the year that the Minnesota Vikings were late to put their pick in at the draft. I think they picked 5th and they ended up picking 7th. I think it was something about the contract for that, what they wanted to pay the player, or like the 5 slot versus the 7 slot. That's what it said in the TikTok comments. I have no idea.
Interesting. All right.
So,
but
Byron Leftwich,
this conspiracy
jumped. Like the Jags took Byron Leftwich when the Vikings didn't put their pick in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny how NFL history hinges on that stuff, which will, you don't know it in the moment, but it'll be fun to watch the draft for that reason.
Yeah.
Because that's where it all starts. And NFL draft is definitely the most immediately important out of any of the 4 major sports. So
I have this thing on Shannon Sharpe. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Oh yeah. You sent me this article.
Yeah.
I don't think we need more than 5 minutes on this.
No, I mean,
it's kind of Shannon Sharpe clickbaity take kind of thing.
Well, Shannon Sharpe.
It's an interesting enough topic regardless of his take. But anyway, you go ahead.
The headline is Shannon Sharpe, Bills will find another way to lose after latest NFL rule changes. Damn, they want Buffalo to get to the Super Bowl so bad. They changed the rules to help him. The full quote is, Chiefs fans point out the NFL changed the rules the last 2 times the Buffalo Bills lost. Too many coincidences is not a coincidence. It evens the playing field and makes the game fair. Talking of the new rule change. Hey, Buffalo, you got to be on the right side of history, Sharp says. Y'all had a lead with 13 seconds left. Listen, you deserve to lose if you had a lead with 13 seconds left and you allowed a team to get in field goal range. You deserve to lose. You earned that loss. I don't disagree.
I was going to say, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong.
He's like, this is what the Chiefs fans are saying. Damn, they want Buffalo to get to the Super Bowl so bad they changed the rules to help them. And guess what? They're going to find another way to lose. That's the clip. So I think anybody with a brain can watch these games and say, okay, maybe our game's not perfect. And it just gets exploited when it's best on best, right? You have the best players and the best coaches, one of the best coaches in the game, working every second, every detail, every yard, every snap matters and stuff like that. It comes down to that, right? It comes down to the controversy. It comes down to the little loopholes. It's why there's bylaws in sporting events and the rule books are super long and you have to read them. And my modified basketball coaching rule book that I get every year just gets a little bigger every year. And you have to read it. You have to know everything in these things. And when the best play each other, stuff gets noticed. So it is what it is. I mean, Tom Brady got the tuck rule. So I don't know, you name it. Stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
So.
And exactly like the whole premise that like, oh, this will help the Bills, as if like this is a rule change that is only going to apply to situations where the Bills need the ball in overtime or the Bills need a first down. Like if it isn't the same across the entire board. Like when they brought in pass interference review, do you remember after that, I think it was Nicole Roby, former Bill cornerback.
Roby Coleman.
I think he was Roby. I think it was just Nicole Roby at some point, and then maybe he was Roby Coleman. But anyway, he was playing for the Rams against the Saints, right? Yep. And remember, he takes out, I don't know if it was Michael Thomas or somebody else, and then they bring in pass interference review, and that only sticks around for a year. It's like, that rule might help somebody else next year. That rule might be like next year in the playoffs, the AFC Championship, the game, the Bills and Chiefs are going to overtime and Josh Allen wins the toss this time and marches down the field. And then who's it going to help after the fact? Because again, that's why I'm never excited about these rule changes when they happen, is because it's like the damage has already been done by things being out of place before that. Like they should have figured out that rule before 13 seconds. And they also should be electronically measuring first downs in the 21st 21st century before we got to quarter way through it,
because
we've had the tech for years and years and years. But it's like the only thing that changes it is when there's enough public pressure or perceived fairness pressure. Like, because again, if they didn't do something about it, the public perception would be like, well, the NFL doesn't care, or the NFL's rigged, or all this stuff. So they have to make these adjustments. But again, they only get brought to the forefront when there's an issue. Like, we didn't need pass interference review, even though it was a problem. It came down to one play that changed that rule, and then they changed it back, right? So
this is interesting. Tennis has used replay technology, specifically the Hawkeye, for line calls in professional matches since 2006. It's a long time. And remind the world that there was just people watching it. Like, spotters on each line guessing that their 118 mile an hour serve missed the line or painted the line by an inch. Craziness. And then in 2006, almost 20 years ago, they were like, well, we can fix this problem. And then soccer started using video assistant referees, VAR, in an international friendly between Italy and France in September of 2016. So almost 10 years ago now. So the NFL is a little behind the boat here.
Yeah. And I don't want to get all conspiracy on you. We're 38 minutes into this episode, and, we're about to wrap it up. But it seems like the reason why you'd want to leave as much subjectivity into the game as possible is to not necessarily influence the game the way that you want, but just leaving room to justify calls. You know what I mean? And
the
it's
subjectiveness of the refs makes the entire world bring their attention to certain games also.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So there's that.
It's part of the beast, I guess. I don't know.
I don't like it.
Yeah. But anyway, Shannon, keep talking to Chad Ochocinco over there.
Right. Well, anyway, you guys know where to find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast. We will be back next week, and I mean it this time. Sorry, I forgot to tell you guys last week before we took a week off there. But we'll be rolling through the draft and have some good content. We will continue to try to be different than everybody else because, we appreciate you guys listening to us, and there's probably a lot more stuff that you listen to, and we don't want any of it to be repeat material. We like to keep it interesting.
There's a lot of good people out there doing podcasts too. So.
Exactly. It's gotten 3 times more saturated since we even started, and I feel like we recently started, even though this is episode 269.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today. I mean, I have a couple friends doing their own shows now, and I'm like, how many people do I personally know doing podcasts? 3 or 4. How many people do I know of that are doing podcasts that we work together? A lot of people. It's like, it's cool. I mean, it's a cool space to be in. You get to talk about whatever you want with your buddies, and people listen. It's crazy.
Real tough spot to be in too. Like, it takes a lot to try to, get somebody who's scrolling to stop and, listen to what you have to say. So I consider us lucky that we made it this far, and mostly
lucky and blessed, man. I say this all the time.
It's not because of us. I mean, if you want to put it down to one thing, it's probably Anthony Marino is the reason why we're still. So shout out Anthony.
Yes.
But we got to get him on this summer. Yes. We got to do that. He'd be a great pre-draft because he's good with studying draft prospects and stuff like that. So
he sent me a message the other day. I put a picture on Instagram of my buddy Adam, my roommate from college, golfing. He got new irons, so we went to the Dome. And Anthony was like, "Oh, that swing looks great. Your swing looks great." And I was like, "It's not mine." That's Adam. He's a scratch golfer.
That's
like,
funny.
I'm not quite there, but it was funny. Yeah,
we're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to need enough retirement money so we can finally get some practice in. But when we're 60, Brando, we're going to have enough time to get practice in. So at least that's my excuse. I know you get to work on a golf course.
I'm
summer,
lucky. So. Yeah. I don't know how people would get good without this job. I don't know. I don't know how. This is it. Sorry. Give me 30 seconds on this. But how does a person get good at golf without going broke? The entrance to golf is so hard to get clubs. I mean, the cheapest beginner set is the top flight
garage sale.
Garage sale. Salvation Army, which is what we did, right? I mean, we did all that. But if you want to upgrade from your garage sale set to a top flight set that comes with a bag, like the junior kits, it's still $299, $300.
Yeah.
And then you're paying $30 for 9 holes. Maybe if you can get a tee time, you're paying $60 for 18 holes. Lessons are $50 an hour. And if you're on a course and you're playing 18 holes and you got guys behind you, they don't like you if you suck. And you got guys in front of you that are super slow. Like how do you do it? And like I feel like my whole life has changed working on a golf course. I can go out there and put 9 balls down in the fairway and be like, oh, I just hit 4 of those in the woods. Let's try to fix something. Okay. Oh, wow. That worked. Cool. But like nobody's there. You know, it's one of those privileges that you get from working at a course. Like, how do people do it? How are there so many good players in the world?
I don't know. It's a cool story actually about Tony Finau, how he learned to golf in his garage, hitting a ball up against an old mattress.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
you know, he came from an upbringing where he didn't have the money to go to the course all the time.
Great guy, Tony Finau.
So, yeah, I like it. He's got to root for. So anyway, before we wrap it up, which I started doing like 3 minutes ago and then got sidetracked. Give me your 3 Masters predictions. 3 guys to win, and don't include Scotty because that's an easy.
I have 5 people that I bet on that I picked.
All right, give me your top 3.
Rory.
Yep, that's my number 1.
Bryson.
Nice.
And the off the path one that I picked was Shane Lowry.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I'd love to see Shane win something like that. I'm going to go. I would go Rory. I would probably put Bryson as my 3. But my second is probably going to be, I'm going to go with Oberg. I think
that's a great pick. I Victor.
think he finished in the top 10 last year, I think. Yeah. And so
one of my guys is Victor Hovland, and Augusta ate him up last year. He struggled.
Yeah. So we'll see. I like rooting for those guys like Zalatoris when he was an amateur and had a crazy good run at it. You know, I think he finished top 3 or something like that a couple years back. But Hovland, you got to get it on the right day. Like if he's on, like you know, I think he's you
just
and I
the average guy playing. He just got good. You know, he's like us. With his chipping, he used to duff chips all the time and still shoot 70 after duffing a couple chips. But I really want somebody to come out here and just grab the PGA Tour by the throat and start winning every week like Tiger did. It's just never going to happen again. They're all so good.
Yeah, I mean the best case is Scotty, but I'm not a Scotty fan. So
why don't you like Scotty?
We talked about this before. He's just too clutch. He's just too clutch. He reminds me of Brady.
He hasn't been.
He's Brady. Also, I don't know. I've watched like the Full Swing documentaries and stuff like that. You know, so you get to know a player kind of like, on and off the course and stuff like that. And I just he's not my favorite.
Interesting.
Not my favorite dude. I don't know.
I like him.
He's so clutch. He gets arrested and he can still go play around, and it's like that's a reason to like him.
Yeah.
But
I think he was such a bad putter early in his career. It cost him so much. Like he was the number 1 player, tee to green, and then strokes gained on the green. He was like 150th. So I think to see him switch putters to a spider mallet putter, which I would tell anybody I give lessons to or I work with, switch to a mallet. Like you get a lot better. They don't want to hear it. All my friends that I golf with, like, shut up about the mallet. But that's been cool to see his like growth as a player into his prime here. But anyway, go Masters.
Sweet. All right. Yeah, I was going to say, have fun watching the Masters. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll get Pat on then as well. But until then, go Bills.
Go Bills.